Hey, welcome to today's morning power of call. This I always say this. I always say this is going to be a phone. This is going to be a phone one as well. They're always fun to me. The concepts I decide to bring to these morning power of calls are always what I hope to be the right concept. The concept that I think is going to be most valuable for the entire campus right now, based on the communication I'm having with you guys, channels, on the calls, and all that stuff. That's why I do these. And today's gonna be fun. We're gonna be examining one of the lessons from Miyamoto Musashi, who was a very interesting figure. We're gonna get more into who he was and what he did. He was a real person. He did real cool things, and he lived a really interesting life. And he had interesting thoughts as a result. There's ideas and thoughts that have helped me make a lot of money in my life. So I'm gonna pass those on to you guys as they have been helpful for me, and I feel like they will be. But before we get into let's talk announcements. I know I said I was going to do a different intro for today. I was going to do the other one, and I'm still going to show that one tomorrow. But I wanted to play this one again. I knew a lot of people didn't get a chance to see it yesterday because it was only open for like 30 minutes. I don't like you can just go watch the intros. So perhaps I'll upload it somewhere where you guys can just watch it and just sit around and be in awe of it because it's a really cool intro. The other one's really cool too, but I want to give you guys a second chance to see this one before I air the next one, which will happen tomorrow. So real quick, let's talk other announcements. Going to do a live copy review call this Thursday. I'm anticipating being able to release at least one of the chunks from the boot camp this week. So look forward to that. The update of boot camp is upon us, and it's an exciting day because not only because the boot camp itself is going to be so much like there's going to be so much value for you guys. It's going to help you start with business easier. It's going to help you improve your writing. It's going to give you a broader view of marketing as a whole, so you know where copywriting fits in. It's gonna be amazing. And I'm excited to have that released to you guys. But again, that's coming in chunks. It's coming as soon as possible. I'm heads down making. I'm hyper focused on quality. I want it to be extremely effective, and I want it to be able to take you. I want to be able to throw a regular person that comes into the real world who just wants to make money, doesn't know a whole lot about business, but is a disciplined, hardworking guy. And he wants to feel freedom. I want to be able to take him from that, not knowing anything about that, teach him about business, teach him about all forms of marketing, teach him about how to write every piece of that marketing, and then teach him how to partner with any business he wants to in order to help their business grow and make a lot of money or launch his own business. That's the scope. It's a massive scope. So it's gonna be a cool boot camp. I'm excited to release it because then I get to do the fun stuff that I've been wanting to do for like weeks and weeks now, which is just launch another offer. I'm so excited to launch my own offer. I've been it's what's driving me through the rest of the boot camp at this point. Beyond just how cool it is to give you guys a new boot camp, launching $1 million offers on the back end and letting you guys keep this like get a behind the scenes view of what that looks like and what it takes. And I mean, I'm not gonna just like do it in a weekend. I'm not gonna like this page and launch it, boom, we're making $1 million. Like it's gonna take probably months of time to get out. But man, it's gonna be fun to do that. I'm really excited for it. So we got all the announcements. We talked about all the things we're gonna do this week. We talked about some of the fun stuff that's happening. Let's talk about the content. Let's talk about our idea for today. So Musashi was an interesting man. Anyone who lives an interesting life has interesting thoughts. And this guy, he grew up in feudal Japan. I think he was. I'm not. A disclaimer here. There are people out there that are Western people, like guys like me from the United States or Europe, that get like hyper obsessed with Japan and like fall in love with Japan and like watch all the animated stuff. I'm not that guy. I grew up in Southeast Texas. I kind of stumbled into Musashi by accident, by way of a guy I knew in the military who was way into his book and some of the strategy and stuff. This guy, he told me about this dude, and he sounded interesting, so I looked into him. So Musashi, he grew up during like the right at the end of a major civil war in Japan, like the 1600s, I think. And he was a dedicated martial artist. Back from being a martial artist, he fought something like 60 different duels in his life. And most of those, he killed the guy. He never lost a single one. So he was a really cool dude. He developed his own form of martial arts somehow, kind of like his own copywriting mechanism. Back then, there were these different sword styles, and he developed one where he used two swords. Anyway, he was an interesting guy. He fought a couple major battles, cool stuff, right? But at the end of his life, he decided to write this book called The Five, which is audio choppy. Nah, you gotta be kidding me. Not today. Not today of all days. Let's check this out. Audio should be good. You guys hear me? This is unfortunate. You guys hear me? You hear the audio? We'll fix this. We'll get this figured out. Let's see if we can change some of this. Are we still there? Can you hear me? Let's see if this works any better. Do we have better audio now? Better audio? The headphones don't change anything. It's better now? Okay. It's still bad. It's still super choppy, right? Or is it better? Clear? All right, cool. We're clear. All right. Let's get back to it then. So let's give a real little recap. Musashi, cool dude, warrior from back in the day, back in the 1600s in Japan. He was a martial artist back in the day when being a martial artist fought duels to death. And closer. It's just closer to the mic. Interesting. I need to just okay. That's all it is. Easy, easy. I can definitely work that. Let's move the mic a little bit closer. I've never had this problem before. Can you guys hear me? Is this better? Man, this is not today. Do we have audio back? Are we back? Is it terrible? You're back. Can you guys hear me? Are we here? Do we have audio? I just switched to AirPods. Okay, so we're on AirPods. Backup audio thing. Man, what a day for the Mr. Producing. This has not been great. Apologies, guys. Sometimes apparently I run into these technical difficulties. We have little obstructions in the way as we're trying to give you guys the value. But let's push through it. Let's make this happen. So we've got audio. It's not as good probably as normal, but we can make this work. So let's start from the very beginning. You guys didn't hear any of the story. It was all choppy. You didn't hear what we're talking about today. So let's start from the beginning. Miyamoto Musashi, this guy was a stud. He grew up in feudal Japan right after one of their major civil wars, and he was a martial artist back when being a martial artist meant that you fought duels to the death, right? So he fought over 60 duels in his life, I believe, and he won all of them. Which meant that he killed a bunch of people. Not all of them were to the death, but he fought a ton of duels, right? He was a traveling Ronin for a long time. He's like traveled all over Japan. He lived a very interesting life, fought several battles, worked for different people. Like he was a cool dude, right? And whenever you live an interesting life, you have interesting ideas. You get insights into life because you've lived a kind of a broad and exciting life, right? Which is why I encourage you guys, on top of just being copywriters, to go out and do interesting things as sort of a reward for the work that you do. Again, 90% super, super hardworking, focused all the time, but you need to take 10% and go do something exciting, do something interesting, go have adventures, because that's how you build an interesting life and give you an interesting perspective. It helps you when you write. Musashi, as an old man, he sat down and wrote a book. Everyone convinced him to finally sit down and write down some of his thoughts, and he wrote down a book called The Book of the Five Rings. And it's a book on strategy. It's a book on martial arts. It's a book on sword fighting, and it's something that was it's a really cool book on strategy. It's a foundational book on strategy. It's in like you have like the Art of War and you have the Book of Five Rings. Those are some like really big classic, especially from Eastern philosophy. Those are some of the biggest books on strategy that have existed and probably will ever exist for the near future. Something to note real quick. I just want to make a quick disclaimer. I'm not like a big Japan guy. Like I know I have this, and you see me with swords and stuff. I'm not the Western guy that's like obsessed with Japanese culture. I don't speak Japanese. I really liked Musashi though. I kind of found him through an indirect method, right? I had a friend in the military who was way into this guy, way into his books. And he recommended them to me, and I read them. I thought they were awesome because what was cool about Musashi is he was an individual who sought to discipline himself as much as possible and develop great mastery in his life. So he doubled down on that and became an amazingly skilled person. And I resonated with that a lot as someone who was seeking to do the same in my own life across different fronts. So I doubled down and really enjoyed that. So all of these things you see here, like the weird Japanese background, me with the swords, most of these, if it's a Japanese sword, I'm picking this up and I'm thinking of a lesson that I've learned from Musashi or from my own life.
it's a reminder to me of these lessons, right? And this one we're going to go over today, we're going to read a quote from from his book. This is probably one of the most valuable insights I've personally taken from the mind of this great warrior. This guy who legitimately was a warrior in the purest sense. And there's a lot of ways that you can apply these lessons to copywriting. But first, we're going to dive in and read a quote. This is just apparently the week of quotes, right? We've done a quote yesterday of Theodore Roosevelt. Today we're doing a quote from Miyamoto Musashi, and we're gonna read this, and we're gonna talk about how this connects to writing, how this connects to copywriting, how it connects to sales, how it connects to life in general. Because the funny thing is, and like if you learn one thing, like let's say sword fighting, you get really, really good at it. The lessons that you learn there, they apply everywhere. They apply to every part of life. Same thing with copywriting, same thing with kickboxing. It doesn't, if you learn one thing really, really well and attain mastery in one thing, those lessons apply to everything in life. So let's read this. So this is a quote from the book of the Five Rings. He says, "The primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your intention to cut the enemy down, whatever the means. Whenever you parry, hit, spring, strike, or touch the enemy's cutting sword, you must cut the enemy down in the same movement. It is essential to attain this. If you think only of hitting, springing, striking, or touching the enemy, you will not be able to actually cut him down." So what he's saying there is when you pick up the sword, when you're engaged in combat, right? Your intention must be to cut the enemy down. Not just to like do any of the weird techniques you learn, like parrying or hitting or whatever these other things are, right? It's not about doing the techniques. It's about the objective. You think of the objective. I'm here to cut this guy down, right? In his world, right? Martial arts, sword fighting, Japan, 1600s. You were there to cut the other guy down, right? That was 100% it. And if you kept your focus on that, you had a great advantage over people who were hyper focused on their, oh, I'm going to go practice this technique and I'm going to have this stance. He was like, I'm going to pick my objective, and then based on the situation, I'm going to pick the tactic that's going to help me cut him down, right? And what's interesting is that's basically exactly what happens with copywriting in both ways, right? You should sit down and say, okay, here's my objective with right now in this engagement with the enemy, in this engagement with my prospect, with my reader, whatever. This is the situation. My objective is to get them to, and you have to decide on what your objective is. His, it was pretty easy, cut and dry. You cut them down, right? For us, eventually we want them to purchase. Sometimes they're going to have micro objectives, but you need to pick your objective. I want them to opt into this newsletter. That is my objective, right? So the weapon I'm going to use, or the technique that I'm going to use, is I'm going to use this type of landing page that's going to grab their attention, pique their curiosity around something they care about, establish some desire, and provide a clear CTA. Those are the tools I'm going to bring to the thing. But every time I start writing that headline, every time I start working with different parts of this landing page, for example, I'm keeping in my mind my objective is to get them to opt into this newsletter, right? There is no magic that comes from just following a form, right? There's no magic that comes from, it's an HSO is not a silver bullet, for example, or a DIC is not a silver bullet, right? You don't use it in all the cases for every single thing. You have to look at where you're at, what your objective is, and then you use the tools and tactics that match that objective, because you are hyper focused on the objective. A lot of you guys, when you sit down, and a lot of beginners, like when they learn some form, just like in martial arts, you learn some techniques, some stances and stuff like that. They get hyper focused on following the forms rigidly, right? They don't even think of their objective. They just think, okay, fighting is you go out and you stand in a stance and you throw combinations, and they don't really think about it being, or writing is just, hey, you open up a Google Doc and you write a framework and you put a fascination in here, and they don't really think about the objective, right? You have to think about the objective. You have to keep the objective primary in your mind, or else you kind of just, it doesn't really do anything, right? You can just go around and parade around and make a bunch of words and sound really cool, but unless it is connected to the framework, unless it is connected to the objective, you're wasting your time. It's spent energy. Same thing with boxing or fighting, or in Musashi's case, sword fighting, right? A lot of people do cool techniques, do cool things, but it might not be connected to the objective, right? The people who win are the people who can stay laser focused on that objective. Same thing with your outreach. You need to think of your objective. My objective is to partner with a business, right? To make them want to partner with me. And then you need to think of all the things you can bring to the table so they will want to partner with you, how you can engineer the experience so that they will want to partner with you, right? You need to think through objectives. And like I said, this applies to every single thing you do, right? It's not enough just to do a G work session. You need to have an objective for your G work session. You need to have an objective for all the things you do. You need to train based on objectives. If you have objectives, you'll actually hit something, right? If you don't have a target, it's hard to hit a target if you don't even have one. You need to set a target, you need to set an objective, and you need to work on that. Copywriting, if this is the same in copywriting, this is the same in fighting, this is the same in living life. You must set an objective and then bring everything else to the table to like serve that objective. Now, different pieces of copy have different objectives. Your reader is at different places. The situation will change, right? But the objective will always stay the same. If you're writing a Facebook ad, for example, and you're reaching out to a completely cold audience, their situation is they don't know you, they don't know anything about you. Your primary objective is to get them to click on the link and go to the landing page, right? In this, like, it's a micro objective. So you need to think, okay, what do I need to bring to the person, to the reader who's in this situation? What do I need to bring to the table here? What kind of images, what kind of text, what kind of curiosity, what kind of desire? What do I need to bring here so that they will actually want to click the link and I'll be able to achieve my objective? You need to think in terms of objectives because the objective will reveal the path, right? If you have a clear objective, it will become obvious what you need to do, right? So instead of just rigidly following a form, focus on the objective and bring the tools, bring the forms, bring the templates, bring all the things to bear that are necessary to help you achieve that objective. Anything else is weird. You're just like, it's superstition. It's like I follow some magical 3-step thing and then poof, I should have magical results. That's not how it works. You need to pick the results you want and engineer what you need to get those results. So again, this is the lesson. I'm gonna read it again. This is the new format apparently for this week. I'm going to read the quote again now that we've kind of had the bigger picture. Now, think about this in terms of copywriting. Think about this in terms of life. Your objective, the primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your intention to cut the enemy down, whatever the means. Whenever you parry, hit, spring, strike, or touch the enemy's cutting sword, you must cut the enemy down in the same movement. It is essential to attain this. If you think only of hitting, springing, striking, or touching the enemy, you will not be able to actually cut him down. My friends, as you go about your copywriting today, as you go about the different things that you do to improve as you go about the daily checklist, think of your objective. What are you trying to achieve? If you don't know what that is, take some time and figure that out because working without an objective is foolish, right? Take some time, determine your objective for each piece of copy, each piece of work that you do, and then assemble the resources, use the tools, use the techniques that I teach you in the right combination to achieve that objective. If you know your objective, the way becomes clear. My friends, this has been a fun call. We got the audio issues sorted out. I guess I'm probably going to do some back-end testing to get this all sorted so that this doesn't happen again. My friends, good call. Let's go out. Let's get it.